Hello, welcome to the Eclectic Reader. Listen to great books and stories while you use your eyes and hands for other things. Now here's your host, Madison Mason.
Hi, it's Madison Mason. Thanks for joining us for Chapter 26 of The Gray Quarry Boys. The Gray Quarry Boys, Chapter 26, Todd's Mission. Shut up that friggin' squeak box, god damn it! Buddy's door slammed open and Ralph Scanlon stood in his underwear, his eyes red and glaring. Buddy looked up in surprise. He hadn't thought anyone else heard. Lorraine staggered up behind her husband. They were both drunk and half-dressed. "Leave him alone, Ralph. He ain't hurting nobody. Just leave him." "I can't stand hearing it. He's driving me out of my goddamn skull. Squeak, squeak all the time. Find something else to do before I kick your ass." Ralph smacked him hard across the head. "Don't hit him, damn you!" Lorraine dragged Ralph back a step. He snarled and turned on his heel, stomping back into the living room. "I'm sorry, baby." Lorraine looked sadly at her son, unable to help. "Yeah," muttered Buddy. He sat alone on his bed as she closed the door. The only music he would hear for the rest of the night was their arguing in the bedroom and the pounding of the rain on the asphalt shingles over his head. Todd turned off the shower and shook the hot water out of his ears. There was so much steam in the shower stall he could hardly breathe, but he still shivered from the cold inside. The feeling of death hadn't left his guts. He ran naked to his room to put on heavy wool socks, fresh jeans, and a couple of shirts. Then he topped it all off with a sweatshirt. He fingered his flat-top haircut into shape and bounded back down into the kitchen following the scent of food. "I'm starving!" he exploded into the warm. His mother jumped visibly and splashed the soup. "I wish you wouldn't do that, Todd. You'll give me a heart condition one day. Make yourself a sandwich. Soup will be ready in half hour." "Wow, what a night, huh?" Todd said into the depths of the refrigerator. He pulled out Wonder Bread, mayonnaise, bologna, pickles, mustard, and Velveeta cheese. "I wonder how long it'll be before Anna Ray Charney finds out about Willie," he said, loading up his sandwich. His mother sighed and put down her ladle. She looked at him without turning around, chin resting on her shoulder, and the blue sadness of her eyes communicating across the room. The soup simmered through the moment of silence while they looked into each other. That was the only sound. "What?" Todd questioned. He knew his mother's eyes. "I was just thinking about that," she said in a half-whisper and looked away. "Those poor children. Poor Anna Ray and those little... Oh." Her voice trailed off in the steam rising from the stove as her mind wandered across the land to the sharecropper shack 3 miles through the woods at Taylor's farm. She turned from the range and picked up the telephone. Cradling it with her neck, she looked into the thin phone book that contained Gray Quarry. After several seconds, she muttered to herself, banged the phone back onto its wall cradle, and went back to stir the soup, whispering about those little bitty children and poor people not having phones, as if no one else was in the room. Todd watched his mom in silence, processing a huge mouthful of sandwich and wondering what she was thinking. Mom was always thinking something, he knew, unlike his dad, who could be silent for hours and entertain only an occasional solid thought. But his mom's mind was always pondering this and that, like someone picking through a box of old clothes. In the middle of the honeymooners, she would pop out with something like, "Did I tell you who walked into the beauty parlor last week?" He poured himself a big glass of milk and plunked down at the Formica table as if he were in front of the TV. He loved to watch his mom's mind work. The food began to warm his insides, and he felt life flowing back into his body. That felt like I caught cold in my guts, almost like Willie reached out with his spirit and came inside me to use my body as a station before going off. Whoa, if he snapped himself out of it. He shook his head violently. "Stop thinking that way. Come on, get that out of your head. What's the matter with you?" he yelled in his mind. "What?" his mother asked across the room. "I didn't say nothing, Mom," he responded, confused. "Oh, I thought Never mind. The silence came back again, stronger. Later, Todd dreamed the sleep of exhaustion, as Marv snored in the next bedroom and tossed in pain. But Becky didn't sleep. Becky Kyle was descended from determined stock, men and women who wrestled farmland from the bouldered earth by pure will and sweat. Mothers back along her line birthed their babies at home by firelight, and some died doing it. Becky was soft, but not tough. In her heart, she needed to look after those little colored children, and there wasn't much in this world that was going to stop her, rain or no rain. She bustled around the kitchen, loading boxes with food, extra blankets, and Todd's old child clothes that she'd never got rid of because she knew one day they'd be needed by someone. Secretly, she hoped it would be another of her own children, but that was never to be. She packed the pickup and covered everything with a canvas tarp. With her green Army surplus slicker hooded and tight, she climbed into the cab and started up. She didn't wake Marv to tell him what she was doing. He'd only try to stop her. Headlights fought the rain, and the wipers gave her some vision, but all she saw was vague silver forms. It would be slow going the 3 miles there and back. The truck began sliding almost immediately. The surface of the farm was so soaked that the mud was puddling, and it felt as if she was driving in fresh snow. She managed to make it past the barn, but when she headed up the hill to the main road, the truck fishtailed and slid off to the right. Even as she revved it to get back up on the high flat, the tires spun in the wet goop, and the truck slid backward, down the shoulder into the ditch, jammed its tail against a fence post, and sat there. No matter how she shifted gears and gunned the engine, the pickup just spun and smoked and dug in deeper, as if it didn't want to go out in the dark rain either. Finally, she turned off the lights and killed the engine.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of The Eclectic Reader. Please go on to the next numbered episode to continue. Also, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you'd like to help support the project, you can donate under Madison Mason at Patreon. And please, check out our website, kltkrdr.com, for more information.
Hi, this is Madison Mason. I want to personally thank you for listening to The Eclectic Reader and invite you to share your experience, your thoughts, and your suggestions. We have many great books lined up for the future, but if you have requests for anything that is in the public domain, please email us at kltkrdr@gmail.com.
kltkrdr@gmail.com